Forever Monday, written by Mike Grimes. Copyright 2010. Part 3, Jogging Memories, Day 194. The sun was up. It was a beautiful day, considering it had been too wet and rainy to jog just a few short hours ago. It had become warm and comfortable in the last few hours. It felt like springtime. Is it? Allison wondered. She remembered the glass of orange juice in her hand and finished it off. She touched her dark hair as she stared out her large bedroom window, taking in the scenery. It was still damp from her shower a few minutes ago. Everything I see looks familiar just about, except me. She suddenly noticed a man standing in the window across the street, directly in line with her apartment. She could not see into the room behind him, but she could see him plain as day, and he could see her. Allison realized she was only wearing a towel wrapped around her plump body, and ducked nervously behind a curtain next to her, holding her hand over her chest. She caught her breath, like a shy schoolgirl, and then leaned over to peek out from the curtain. He was still there, in dress pants and a light blue shirt, long sleeve rolled up at the elbows. His tie was pretty burgundy color. He looked trim and in shape. He was holding a black coffee mug and smiling. His window was like Allison's, almost big enough to afford a full view of his form, which was quite nice indeed. "Are you at work?" she thought. "Are you getting ready for work? Do I have to work? Of course I do, but it's Monday, and I have off every Monday." The man took a sip from his mug, but never took his eyes off Allison's window, off of Allison. She smiled playfully, averting her eyes in a coy manner, nervously brushing her damp hair from her cheek. Her heart was pounding in her chest, a sensation that reverberated down her body. It felt good, like 1,000 little butterflies inside her belly. He waved. He appeared to be just as nervous as she was. He pointed at her, then mimed wiping his brow as if he were hot, letting out a breath. Allison giggled, and he smiled again. He sipped from his mug. She looked at him, studied him, biting her bottom lip, then walked away to get dressed, gently closing the curtains. She stood with her back to the window, pondering the scene. It seemed so familiar somehow. He had admired her, smiled at her, stared at her in a lovingly and awestruck way, romantically scrutinizing her, her like a piece of artwork. It felt wonderful to be objectified like that. It made her blush and feel beautiful. She dressed for the day in a denim miniskirt and a white tank top. The outfit put major emphasis on her pale legs and left her freckled shoulders, arms, and knees remarkably bare. She put on makeup that brought out her blue eyes and ample lips, and large hoop earrings. She tied her hair back and then looked into the floor-length mirror in the bedroom. She pivoted on her bare toes, considering how the short skirt hugged her sinfully. "Whoever you are, girl, you look good." Back in the living room, Allison grabbed a book from the coffee table, resting her painted toes on the table's edge in front of her as she sat down on the fluffy red sofa. It was then that she saw the spyglass with brass trim sitting upright on the coffee table beside her feet. She glanced out the window, swinging her knees left and right for a moment, deep in wondrous thought. She looked out at the building across the street and suddenly had an idea. She went to the living room window, spyglass in hand, and peeped outside. Her new friend in the blue shirt and khakis was gone, and his blinds were drawn. Oh well. Allison made her way to the sofa again to read her book. It was an interesting mystery about a lawyer in Philly with a twin sister she did not know about. The twin was wreaking havoc on her sister's life, trying to frame her for all sorts of mischief and serious crimes, including murder. Allison finished the 300-odd-page book in a few hours. Allison decided to go to the park for a late lunch. She put on a pair of strappy sandals with 2-inch heels and drove instead of jogging. She wondered if her new friend would be there, though she knew the chances of that were highly unlikely. Still, she hoped. When she returned home, the sun was shining in such a manner that it lit up her view of the building across the street. She dropped her keys and trotted anxiously over to the living room window. She gazed out over the open air and actually found him standing there at his window. He had been, apparently, looking for her, or so she hoped. He was staring at her bedroom window. The man suddenly saw Allison and smiled. He waved at her, and she waved at him, beaming like a teenager with a crush. He pointed at her, then gestured toward the bedroom, where she knew the window was bigger, where the view of her was nicer. She understood perfectly. When she saw him from her bedroom window, he gave her a thumbs up, then appeared to whistle as he waved heat from his face. Allison remembered she was wearing a skirt and a rather tight top. She smiled and curtsied for him. After a moment, she held up one finger, signifying he should wait, and then disappeared. When she returned, she opened her spyglass and held it up to him. He smiled, laughing. She peeped at him through the lens, and he spun around for her, posing, arms outstretched. She smiled and gave him a thumbs up, then waved heat from her own face like he had. Her friend held up his finger, walked away, and returned with a pair of binoculars. Allison laughed out loud and secretly wished he could have heard her. She went to the dining room to grab her journal and marker from the desk. When she came back, he watched as she scrawled frantically. She tore out the page and held it up to the window. He held up his binoculars. The paper said, "You're prepared, LOL." He lowered his binoculars and scribbled a note of his own. Allison wondered for a second if the people down on the street could see the two of them, communicating like two prison inmates. He finally held up his own note for her to read. "I like the front of you. May I see the back?" He flipped the sign over. "Please," in capital letters. Allison laughed and covered her mouth. She wrote her another note. "Have you been a good boy?" He replied, "Put up with an angry client. Does that count?" Allison simply nodded. He watched through his peepers as she spun on her sandals, showing him her back and denim-clad butt. She fiddled with her hair, playfully, smiled childishly. When she looked at him, he was clapping, applauding her beauty and effort. She turned so she was in perfect profile for him, bent one knee, showing her pretty sandals. He held up a sign, "Skirt fits you perfectly. Love the shoes." On the back he had written, "You're beautiful," in capital letters. "Thanks," she wrote back. She flipped her sign and made him laugh. "Speak for yourself, handsome." She wrote some more. "Working?" "Yes." He saw her look behind her at something, then she was writing frantically. "Need to go," her sign said. "Have appointment," with a sad face. "I'll be here." "You don't have to be." "Want me to be?" She nodded. He saw it without needing his binoculars. He flipped over his sign. "I'll be here." Allison smiled, waved, and he waved back. She almost left, and then turned back and went to the window. She put her fingers to the window and then closed her eyes. She puckered her lips, leaving a nice clear set of kissy lips on the glass. He smiled at her, then returned to his work, shaking his head in amazement. Chapter 16. "Did you take your pills?" Dr. Stone asked Allison. "I took one this morning." "Good. What's it for?" she asked him. "For your memory, to improve it." She felt her brow screw up, skeptically. "My memory? Why would I need to? Do you know who I am, Allison?" "You're Dr. Stone." "Yes, but who I am, what I am, not just by name. You're my doctor, and my friend, I suppose." "I specialize in memory loss," he said. "Are you saying I lost my memory? I hate to say it, but yes. There was a terrible car accident a while back. That's how you got that scar on your forehead." Allison touched the old wound, now healed over. "I have amnesia?" "Yes," Dr. Stone sighed. "I wish I could say it's a simple case, but it's not, I'm afraid. There are two main types of memory loss: retrograde, where someone would not be able to recall events, names, etc. from before the trauma, and anterograde, in which people rarely recall things after a trauma has occurred. You, unfortunately, suffer from both. You cannot remember your past, nor can you recall anything beyond a 24-hour period. More common than not, you lose your memory by the time you wake up in the morning. This morning," she said, "I could recognize where I was and my name, but not what I saw when I looked in the mirror. I don't remember faces or names. What if I don't sleep?" "It doesn't matter. Your mind still seems to wipe itself clean every 24 hours. Is it permanent?" "I don't know yet. It's really up to you, Allison. Your progress depends on you. But we take it slow. Continue taking your pills, maybe listen to music, or read a book, or watch TV. He paused. "Allison, do you know what déjà vu is?" "Yes, it's when you think something has already happened, like you've been in a similar situation before, but you can't remember when." "Good. When you get that feeling, like things might have happened before, Write it down. I'll give you a journal. If you read something or see something that triggers a memory, keep track of it. Keep it handy in a drawer somewhere and read it once in a while. We'll discuss what you wrote later and see what develops. His words rang through Allison's head for the duration of her ride home. Tears rolled down her cheeks the entire time. Chapter 17. When Allison arrived home from her appointment that afternoon, she stood in the living room, sobbing. She thought of the man across the street. By morning, she would forget all about him. Why, damn it? Why would I forget him? Why will I have to start over from square one? It's not fair. It's not fucking fair. She shoved her fists against her eyes and bawled. As if on cue, she saw light flickering out of the side of her eye from her window. More specifically, it was coming from the window across the street, his window. He saw her cry for a moment more, then she turned and looked in his direction. He had used a mirror to reflect the sunlight and catch her attention. It worked like a charm, but she still looked awful. Like she would fall apart at any moment. Allison grabbed her new journal, ripped out a page, and began writing. She rushed to the window and slapped the note against the glass. Call me, please. She had written her number below. A moment later, she saw him dialing his cell phone. When her phone rang, she snatched it up and answered before the second ring. Hello, she said, sniffling defeatedly. You sound terrible, he said. Are you okay? She laughed, relieved that it was him. She looked out the window and saw his wonderful, concerned face across the way. He was waving gently. I am now, she said softly. I take it the appointment didn't go as planned? His voice was deep, yet tender and comforting. Yeah. Salty tears ran down her face between her lips. She wiped her nose with a tissue. She scoffed uncontrollably. I must be a slobbery mess right now. Not at all. He smiled at her sweetly, and it lifted her spirits a little. Don't concentrate on that. You need to get it out. You just go ahead and cry. Why did you call me? Why did you want me to? Because I needed a friend, and... Allison covered her eyes and sobbed, leaning against the thick pane of window. She smeared the kissy lips with her hair. After a long pause, he whispered, Can you do me a favor? What? Name it. I can't see you too well, he said. Can you pull up a chair and sit by your bedroom window? She eagerly obeyed, without a moment's hesitation, dragging one of her wooden dining room chairs with her to the bedroom. She sat down and crossed her thick, pale legs. This better? Yes, much. You look better in this light. She smiled as he spoke, his words warming her and helping her woes roll off her shoulders. She leaned way over to her dresser to grab her spyglass. He watched her legs and toes stretch as she reached, in an effort to counterbalance herself. He also caught a glance of her pale, bare midriff, but he blew it off, circumstances being what they were. Besides, he said, it's more intimate this way. She looked at him through the spyglass. Here I am, he said. He heard her laugh. It was a glorious sound. Can you tell me what you found out today? Allison lowered her lens. She rubbed her eyes and sighed. I have amnesia, and I forget everything once every 24 hours passes. She waited for a moment, then added, I didn't find out until today. Sorry, bad joke. I didn't laugh, sweetie. So why are you crying? Because you and I just met, and I get the impression you really care about me, and... I do, he said. And I'm interested, she said. I really, truly am. I mean, God, you're handsome. But tomorrow when I wake up... He watched as she covered her face with her hand and cried some more. Oh, God, she muttered into the phone. I understand, he said sympathetically. Allison wiped her nose with the back of her wrist. He said, well, I guess tomorrow we'll just have to start over because I'm not going anywhere. Allison laughed. You're so goddamn sweet. What's your name, anyway? Michael. Bikel. I like Bikel, she sniffled. Sorry, I'm all stuffy now. It's okay, you don't need to be. My name's Allison. Nice to meet you, Allison. Is there anything else you'd like to tell me about it? No, I think I just want to talk about something else. Sure, he said. So we have this lovely spring evening between us. You seem to have calmed down a bit. Allison watched as he clipped his phone to his belt and positioned an earpiece. I do feel better, she said as she bent down to pet her cat. Because of me? Michael asked. Yes. What can I say? I have the touch. Allison heard a shuffling sound and saw him moving about his office. What are you doing? I have a small leather sofa in here. I'm moving it closer to the window so I can sit and still see you. Michael finished the task and let out a single breath. Allison was impressed. Hey, he started to say as he sat down. I skipped lunch. What do you like on your pizza? Pepperoni, sausage, onions, and green peppers. Wow, specific. I love a woman who knows what she wants. I know what I like, she said, her voice full of innuendo. You should take off your sandals. You don't like them? She asked, a little disappointed. I do, but maybe you're more comfortable. What if I am comfortable? What if I want to see you barefoot? He said. Allison grinned and moved her and posed her sandaled feet. She sighed. You're right, she finally relented. I would be more comfortable. See? Oh, shut up, she teased. She removed her shoes and tossed them aside, then put one bare heel up on the front edge of the chair. Are you worried what I might see? He said with a mischievous ring to his voice. Nope. Besides, you seem like a gentleman, and I trust you. Why, did you want to see a certain something? Maybe, but let's not rush things, okay? That's fine. Your legs and feet are very beautiful, though. Thank you. She lifted one foot and pointed it at him. You want to smell? He chuckled. Don't tempt me, sweetheart. You like women's feet, huh? You could say that. I often fantasize about my future wife coming home from work, or somewhere else, and letting me massage and kiss her pretty feet. That is something I would enjoy very much. So you like giving foot massages, huh? Yes. Would you rub my feet? Allison asked. In a heartbeat. Allison laughed. Every wrinkle, he said, without protest or permission. He explained without remorse. Ooh, would you kiss them? Lick them? Yes, I would make love to them every night. And it turns you on just to think about it? I can see that from here. Yes, it does. I like that about you. That I have a foot fetish? He asked. Well, yeah, but aside from that, you make me feel so pretty, and you respect me also. Allison smiled, rubbed her knee and shin. And what do you see? A gorgeous brunette with delicious hair, pretty freckles, and an exquisite body. And a cat. Allison giggled. Her cat rubbed her leg again. He meowed at her. What's his name? Michael asked. I haven't decided. It changes from day to day. He laughed. She reached down and stroked her cat's tail. Then his ears when he rammed his head into her hand. Ha ha, Michael said dryly. I've just been calling him Cat. She looked at Michael and smiled. I'm glad you called. Me too. So how many pizzas can you two eat? I don't know about Cat, but I can eat about 6 or 7. 8 or 9 if the mood strikes me. That was a penis joke. Yep. I'm a woman with an appetite. I like it. So what do you drink with your pizza? I mean that literally. I know. Soda's fine. I'm not sure about Cat, though. Allison stood and padded over to the window, leaning her shoulder against it. She rested her head against the edge, bending one knee, resting her weight on the ball of her opposite foot. She played with her fingernails while Michael used his office phone to order the pizzas. She gazed at him longingly. Thank you, he said, and hung up his office phone. Okay, I'm back. I'm glad. I hope you like Giuseppe's. I wouldn't know. Another memory loss joke. Boy, you are funny. At least you're in a better mood. He sat down on the sofa again. When they arrive, he'll deliver 1 pie and a 6-pack of Coke to you. Then he'll come here. But don't you dare pay for it. It's on me. And don't think about tipping either. You know I'll be watching you, so no funny business. I could claim I forgot, she said. So what if I do give him a tip? Then I'll hang up. Allison shot straight up. You wouldn't, she yelped. My, aren't we feisty? No, I couldn't do that. You better not. So what if I don't tip or pay? What's my reward? I'll kiss you the first time we get together in person. There was a long silence. Then he asked, What are you thinking about, Alley Cat? She smiled. I like that name. I can be your little alley cat. I was thinking about you. That all right? Of course. He loosened his tie. Mind if I get comfortable too? Not at all. Mind if I watch? No. Why would I? Allison peeped on him through her spyglass. She watched as he removed his tie, undid the top button of his shirt. His upper chest was smooth. Me like, she said, smiling. Good. I feel so naughty, like a peeping Tom. Well, peep away, he told her. So what do you do over there, and why aren't you doing it right now? I'm an agent. My clients tend to be sue happy. But you can't imagine how good the pay is. As for why I'm not really working, aside from talking to you, this is a private office. Only a few people have this number, and I work on my own schedule. But I get my job done, believe me. I'm no slacker. I never implied you were. I believe the complete opposite, actually. So, still thinking about me? Yes, in a way. Actually, I was thinking of something I read in a book I have here. I didn't read the whole thing, but it's a biography about Audrey Hepburn, this actress from the 50s and to the 90s. Anyway, there's this photo of her sitting on a window ledge playing a small guitar and singing. Moon River, he said. That's the song. It's from a film called Breakfast at Tiffany's. That's what the book said. I read that part out about that scene, and, well, this kind of reminds me of it. I don't have a guitar, but I think you understand what I mean, how I feel. Yes, he said, I understand perfectly. The way you look right now reminds me of it, too. We should watch that movie sometime. It's pretty good. You know, the first time I saw one of her films, I was in the 11th grade. We watched My Fair Lady, and I liked it so much that I named a cat after her, Eliza Doolittle. Allison giggled into the phone. That's really sweet. Have a little Audrey Hepburn fetish, do we? She's pretty, but nothing like you. She was much too thin for my taste. You like a fuller woman, huh? Yes, and I'm not ashamed to admit it either. I like my women round and soft in all the right places, perfect and beautiful. Like me? Exactly like you, Alley Cat. She smiled and blushed. Michael? Yes. Do you think it's possible to fall in love so fast? To become so infatuated with friendship and intimate conversation that you cannot help but fall? Yes, is that how you feel right now, Allison? You first. Yes, he said. It's exactly how I feel. Me too. She started to cry. But what about tomorrow? She said softly. What if I forget again? We'll face that when it comes, okay? Just promise me one thing, she asked. Anything. If I do forget, promise you won't use it to take advantage of me. Allison, honey, I would never even dream of it. I love you. I love you too, Michael.